I have. Maybe it's the fact that we're talking about golf and Fox that we can't get a connection.
Maybe that is it.
I'm sorry. I've hosted 1,000 shows, and when the guest's phone doesn't work, I want to throw stuff against.
Well, this one sounds better. This one sounds better. So you have played Shinnecock.
I'm sitting on my head with my legs up straight against the wall to try to get the best possible reception inside my house.
Well, you live in
again, I'm going the extra mile.
Well, you live in St. Louis. Maybe that's part of the problem. But you have played.
We barely have electricity here.
But you have played. You have played Shinnecock, so you know the core. It's a great place. There's no question about it.
It's just the tried and true. And I think what they're doing, as opposed to, Erin Hills, people thought, well, if the wind is up, Erin Hills is going to be a really tough golf course. And that might have been true, except the wind wasn't up. So what I've heard they've done is bring the fairways back in tight at Shinnecock. And it's going to have that old school look of tighter fairways, thicker rough. There's only so much length you can put on these golf courses, but with regard to the width of the fairway, it's going to be narrowed, and that's going to make the test what it should be for a U.S. Open.
Do you think Tiger? You definitely think Tiger now is going to win another major in his career, don't you think that?
I don't know. I think he's going to have to quiet a lot of demons, or at least a lot of voices, to get another major. I mean, he's sitting on 14. He's been sitting on 14 since 2008. It's great for the game of golf. It's great for the sport. It's great for sports when Tiger's, back, so to speak. But the question is, when people say Tiger's back, my question is back to what? Back to being able to compete at the Valspar and the Arnold Palmer Invitational? Yeah, okay. Maybe he's back to that, but I think he's still got a lot to prove. And I thought way back when that scandal broke, I was doing that HBO show, and I remember walking out on the stage talking about it, saying, golf is different than any other sport. You're not hiding out in right field for the White Sox. You're not 1 of 11 on a football team. You're not, the sixth man in the NBA. It's all up to you. You initiate the action. You have to be dialed in. You have to be perfect. You have to be laser focused. The fans are right there, especially in the old U.S. Open venues. So for me, he's still got a lot to prove that he can play in a major and be what it takes to win. And we'll see. We'll see soon at the Masters. And like we said at the beginning of this, when my phone was cutting out, if somehow, some way, he's in contention on Saturday and Sunday, every executive at Fox will drive him to the golf course to make sure he shows up on time. Oh,
absolutely. Rating-wise, he's about a 2-point difference. Is he not in golf, Joe, rating-wise?
Great, yeah. I mean, I don't know who is the equivalent in any other sport. Now, it's different because it's a one-man show at times, and these guys are one-man enterprises and corporations. It's not a team, but LeBron James in the NBA, Steph Curry, maybe Jeter, I don't know, Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton. But I think as far as a professional athlete who changes a rating that significantly, I think he's in a league of his own. Because he makes just the average sports fan want to watch. You don't have to be a crazy golf fan. It's a real niche-y. Golf is a really interesting thing. It's hard to jump in because it's kind of a closed-off little society, and now all of a sudden the new guys show up, and the fans are really hardcore. And to me, when Tiger's in contention, the average person walking down the street, if it's on, will stop and watch and see how he does. And I just don't see anybody else in professional sports that has that.
I agree. LeBron close, but not the same. Remember one thing about Shinnecock, folks. This is not Bethpage. This is not a public facility, and it's very difficult to get to. Joe will tell you that. So to expect, very hard. So to expect the sort of fandom, that blue collar spirit that you see see at Bethpage, and everybody's completely into it, and 50,000 a day, and they're at the practice rounds, and which really adds to it. It's not going to be this. Joe, tell him it's not going to be this. I got my kid 4 tickets to opening day, and he's going to have a tough time getting there. I mean, it's train. It's one road in. It's a very difficult venue, so it's going to feel not like a Bethpage, despite the fact it's on Long Island. How about that for a sec? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I've only watched the Opens that have been there. Haven't been. What is it? Southampton.
Southampton. Southampton.
Yeah. So it's limited access in, limited out. High security. So you're talking about lines. It's a different world than it was last time around, or at least 2 times ago. It's going to be an effort to get there. So I remember Bethpage certainly, and now you've got Rory saying what he said after winning this last week before Sunday, when he was talking about how fans are just getting out of control, and you see what happens at Phoenix, and I don't sense it's going to be that type crowd out there. Could be wrong, but I think those that are going to bother to get there are going to be there for the experience and not doing a lot of getting hammered and yelling stuff out.
Are the golfers, Joe, much more accommodating to work with from a media standpoint than the baseball player and a football player that you work with?
To a certain degree, because you can walk up if you have the right badge. You know how long those guys stand on the range. I mean, you can walk up, talk to their coach, talk to them. Sometimes they're looking for a little bit of a diversion. They stand out there all freaking day, and a lot of those guys are happy to talk. Now, they give off an aura. Does this guy want to talk or not? I think I probably learned that as a little kid, trailing around after my dad. Like, you can just see.
You can sense it. You can sense it. Yep.
Yeah, you can sense when somebody's ready to talk, and you can sense when somebody's shut down and it's leave me alone time. So I'm smart about it, but I've gotten to know those guys pretty fast because they see me doing other sports, and they'll ask me about the NFL or MLB, and I'll ask them about golf. So it's a good little relationship we've put together fast.
And golfers are good sports fans. They like sports. The golfers.
Yeah, well, those guys, most of those guys, and I'm not gonna. This isn't a big revelation, but a lot of those guys like action. They've grown up on golf courses. A lot of guys don't play golf if not for the betting, and they are action seekers, and so they want to know, hey, who do you like this week between the Packers and the Cowboys, or who, what baseball team should I be looking at? They're always kind of looking for angles, and I think that mentality works well in the game of golf beyond betting. I think it's angles, it's it's outsmarting your opponent. It's how are you going to get this ball in the hole. It's kind of silly to talk about, but I think they all kind of like the action, and they want to know the inside stuff.
Did Fox ask you, Joe, about the Thursday night package and if you'd be willing to do it, or that didn't go that far in the conversation?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. I don't know where that's all going to go. I mean, obviously, I think all the reports are right. They would give the keys to the kingdom to Peyton if he were willing to do it. And as a Fox guy, I really hope he's willing to do it. I was excited when, it was talked about that Tirico may come over just for Thursday nights, and it could be Tirico and Peyton, and they do it on Fox. I don't know if that's realistic or not. But I would love it as somebody who roots for the network. I don't know if timing wise, I even have the time. It'd be fun. I'd love to work with Peyton Manning. That'd be interesting, for anybody. But when that schedule kicks in, we're right in the throes of the baseball playoffs. And, the Sunday late game is still the number 1 rated game on network television. And that would be, something I wouldn't want to give up. So it's just too much. I think they're waiting on Peyton, whatever his answer is. As I said, I think the reports are true that they would start the process and the funneling of talent into Thursday night with Peyton if they could get him. And if they don't, I don't know which way they go. I'm sure they do, but that's not something they talk about with me.
It's funny, too, Joe. Joe Buck, of course, a good line here. We'll do a little baseball in a sec. The good thing about For the folks out there, and this includes players who say this Thursday night deal is a waste of time. I can't play it. We should never play Thursday night. The fans say the same thing. I'm over football saturated. You know what? Tell that to Fox. What they give them? They give them a ton of money for like 55 games. So there is still a tremendous appetite with network television for Thursday night football. So what is the NFL supposed to do? Turn down billions of dollars because Richard Sherman might get hurt on Thursday night, and they're a business. They got to take the money because the money's out there for them to take. What's your take on that for a sec?
Yeah, and it works both ways. I mean, yeah, the money's there for the owners, and the ratings are there for the network. I mean, you can say ratings are down, and they took a hit the last 2 years, but I guarantee you this, whatever the Thursday night rating on Fox is this year, it's going to trounce whatever Fox had on Thursday nights in years prior, and it's going to be a big number. And they worked out other stuff in that deal that I'm not smart enough to understand, whether it's online stuff, social media stuff. I don't know. I know they got the draft, and they're going to have the draft on, and there are other pieces to the puzzle, but I was thrilled. When Fox got it, I'd rather be on Fox than CBS or NBC, and I know Fox is excited to have it. I know the NFL is excited it's on Fox, and now we'll just see if Peyton wants to be a part of it or not.
Last thing on the football, and I've been on this, the Eagles win a Super Bowl and everything else. Everybody says, well, now's the time to trade Foles. You're an intangible guy like me. If you trade Foles right now, or if you're the GM, you're almost upsetting the football gods. Here it is. You took you 60 years. You finally won his championship. The kid played great. You don't know when, in fact, Wentz is back anyway. Geez, you trade him off as soon as you win. It's almost like you're annoying somebody upstairs, and you're going to want him back in the middle of October. So you might as well keep him. He doesn't mind being a backup, and let's see how Wentz plays. At least for 1 year, I would never trade Foles. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think you're going to get enough. I don't know that Foles could have had a hand for anything, and I don't know that teams are going to overwhelm the Eagles with picks or personnel to get Nick Foles. He just fit in perfectly with Philly. I mean, Doug Peterson seems to get no credit, but the job he did really getting Foles prepared. Remember, Doug Peterson was a lifetime backup to Brett Favre and mainly to Brett Favre. He knows what the life of a backup is like and what it's like, when Nick Foles took over, Peterson didn't blink. And they did an unbelievable job of tailoring that offense to the strengths of Nick Foles. It took a while because at the end of the regular season, that team offensively, it was ugly. But they figured it out. And I'm sure Nick probably doesn't want to go anywhere. And like you said, who knows when Wentz comes back? I mean, he had a torn ACL. So I don't see how there's any way you trade him this year. And you see how things go. And if they can develop Nate Sudfeld, the backup who played at Indiana, my alma mater, we're not exactly a quarterback factory there. So we'll see. But I'm with you. I wouldn't touch the phone if somebody called for Nick Foles.
I was shocked, Joe. Minnesota gave Cousins $90 million. They could have had Unitas play in the NFL championship game. And Joe, you did that game. I had to go to bed at halftime. That's how bad the game was. I was so frustrated. I wanted Minnesota to win because I wanted to see the Patriots beat them on the road to win a championship. But I was very surprised that Minnesota, Cousins, who's never won a playoff game, you called that Giant game a couple of years ago. He did not play well. You also called the Redskin-Packer game when Rodgers beat him. To me, you can't pay. It's not Cousins' fault. Give him credit. But to me, because he was in the right place, right time, how do you give a quarterback $90 million who's never won a playoff game? I was stunned they did that. What's your take there?
I agree with you. And I think he's got a lot to prove. And of all the guys to get a 3-year guaranteed $28 million a year deal, there's going to be a lot of heat on him. Now, he's on a good team, obviously. They've got a lot of weapons on the outside. They'll get Cook back or running back. Their offensive line was better. They have a great defense. They have a good head coach. There's a lot of pieces there to like, but my God, I thought Case Keenum played great, and they had a good thing going with him. I kind of think Denver ends up with a really good option for a couple of years until they can develop somebody in Case Keenum. And so now the focus goes to Kirk Cousins. And I know, by the way, that the Redskins ended up with Alex Smith, and good for them. I mean, Smith has always kind of been overlooked, and he was a Pro Bowler last year and what have you. But I know for a fact that Jay Gruden loves Colt McCoy. And there were times last year where they were not too far away from pulling trigger and putting Colt back there.
Wow.
Quarterback. So I am anxious to see how he does switching organizations. And he's a wonderful guy. He's a guy that when you meet him, you root for him instantly. He's a legit good person, and he got his money, and now we'll see if he can do what he hasn't been able to do, and that is win the big game and get the Vikings over the hump. But I kind of liked what they had going before, and I don't really know why they messed with it at that price tag.
I was shocked. Joe, last couple of things here on the baseball. Is it good or bad that we basically have a magnificent seven? We have the Yankees and the Red Sox. We obviously have the Cubs. We have the Dodgers. Houston is 5. Indians are 6. I can throw an extra team in there if you wish. Maybe somebody, the Nationals are 7. There you go. You have a lot of have-nots in the sport. Now, I know Manfred loves the Yankee-Red Sox deal. Giants, Dodgers, maybe the Giants more competitive. But I have not seen baseball this split up between very good and pretty lousy in a very long time. Teams wanting to, tank to get the picks. What's the point of getting free agents when I can't win the division anyway? What is your take on the eve of the season, a week now away, with, 7 excellent teams and everybody else pretty lousy? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I don't know that I disagree with how you characterize it. I just think we'll see how it all plays out. And I think we're all smart enough to know that, as the years have gone on, and it's kind of been, the Yankees trying to buy their way into the winner's circle, that doesn't work. And we'll find out how good this lineup is. I still think they have a lot of pitching questions in New York with as good as that team can be. And yeah, Boston's good, but is David Price a frontline guy for the money they're paying him? Obviously, Chris Sale is, but he ran out of gas at the end of the year last year. And is J.D. Martinez the piece that they've needed after David Ortiz walked away? In other words, I think there are questions with all those teams. Justin Turner breaks his wrist with the Dodgers, and is Kershaw going to be as dominant, and can he dominate in the postseason and win the game that they just have to win the whole thing? I still think there are questions out there with those Magnificent Seven teams. Who's going to close for the Nationals right on down the line? And some team's going to surprise this season, but I don't know. The way I look at it, local ratings are great. There is fan interest from the St. Louis fans for the St. Louis Cardinals and the Milwaukee fans for the Milwaukee Brewers. The national stuff, you better hope that the Red Sox are good and the Yankees are good and the Nationals are good and the Cubs are good and the Dodgers are good. And, I kind of think it is where it should be. And now we'll see if these Magnificent Seven teams, as you put it, are as great as we think they are going into the season. I don't think they're that great. And I just think we'll wait and see if they're exposed or if they are what they potentially could be.
But if you lived in now they don't go to games anyway, but if you lived in Miami, Tampa, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, to a certain degree, Seattle and Oakland, maybe Atlanta. I mean, if you lived in these kind of spots, why would you go crazy going to a regular season baseball game?
Well, hasn't it kind of always been that way? Have there been years? Maybe I'm not thinking right, but have there been years where 30 teams had a legitimate shot to win it all? I mean, think about the 90s. It was the Yankees once they popped up in 96, and then it was the Yankees and Red Sox, and it was just, players with the Cardinals, when I was doing the Cardinals, used to laugh at me and say, oh, what game are you doing this weekend? Let me guess. The Yankees? Oh, what game are you doing this weekend? Let me guess. The Red Sox? It's the same. It's always been that way. There are the haves and the have-nots. And, I guess they can be sold. Some of those teams, Atlanta, I guess, has got a lot of good young players, but they're a couple years away. You're right. I mean, there's a lot to try to sell those fans on, but I don't know that it's ever been different from that.
I will say this, Joe, last thing. The Astros are they are not going to have a hangover. I'm telling you right now, not like the Cubs. They are flying. Cole, Altuve's $151 million. Little chip on their shoulder. Verlander and everything else. Young enough to be still hungry. I think Houston is going to be one hell of a baseball team in 2018. How about that?
I agree. Yeah, there's nothing not to love there. They have a strong owner. They have a really good GM. They have a manager who seems to be able to put up with the Moneyball stuff and the statistical trigonometry that all these teams are into, and yet still manage with his gut. I don't know that we or anybody gave A.J. Hinch enough credit last year for the way he managed in the postseason, where his bullpen stunk. I mean, the closer fell apart, and even their top setup guys were in shambles. And he found guys, whether it was McCullers on the right night or Morton on the right night or whoever it was, and he just let them go. And it wasn't like, well, now we're in the 8th inning and the formula is we have this guy. Now we're in the 9th inning and the formula is, even though he's struggling, Giles, he just let the other guys finish the games. And, every night we'd walk in and John Smoltz would give him a high five, like, that's the way you're supposed to manage. You get a guy out there on the mound that's hot and rolling, don't have him looking over his shoulder. Let him go. And A.J. Hinch, maybe he didn't have any options, but I thought he was brilliant the way he got them through that postseason.
It's funny. I killed him for the one game, and ever since then he was great. I did not like when he took McCullers out at Yankee Stadium in Game 4. I thought that was a big error.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. That is the example that is the exception to what I'm saying. McCullers was dominant, and yeah, he lost it. I think Judge hit a home run off him, maybe.
Somebody did. Somebody hit a home run. Yeah, I think it was Judge.
Somebody he went walk and homer or something happened. Those games all run together. But you're right, and then it unraveled after that. But that was the last time he did it, because there were guys like Davinsky and these other pitchers that proved to him that they couldn't handle it. And so from then on, especially when the ALCS went back to Houston.
Yep, you're right.
He was like, hey, if you're hot and you're rolling, keep on going. And he did it in the World Series, and I think that's what won them the World Championship.
100%, Joe. Thanks for so much time. We'll keep in touch. We'll see you soon. Appreciate you coming on here today. Always a pleasure.
All right. See you, Chris.
Take care. Joe Buck, thoughts with him. Good to have him with us here on this busy afternoon. Okay, Steve Torrey is in the house today. Serena's in trouble. He's going to give you the score here in a minute.
I just saw that. He thought this was going to be a tough spot.
I thought the other girl would have some trouble, but, she's used that momentum and away she goes as we look at downtown Miami, and not a bad. Now, has the weather improved?
I mean, it's snowing heavily.
Is Metro North in operation?
I would assume. I guess it is. I mean,
could Steve Torrey have gotten home tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't leave my car at the train station. I took a cab in the event that
But you could have taken Metro North back home if you had to.
I guess I could. Yeah.
So you basically took advantage of the company with the hotel rooms.
If that's how you choose to look at it, yeah. If you want to say so.
I know Eddie was looking to get out after you busted your ass to get him a room, so I give you credit for that.
Well, I mean, what are you supposed to do? I mean, you have to. If they're talking about the world coming to an end, you got to prepare. You got to make sure your employees are taken care of.
Only you could use both scenarios against different people. One who wants to leave, and then one who wants to stay.
I used it both. Yeah.
Boy, you're amazing.
And what are you doing?
No, I'm staying in a city. I wanted to go home too. The point is, you could make it home tonight.
Yeah, but who anticipated that? And then how do you know that once you get up there that it's going to start getting worse? You're still even if you left now, you wouldn't be home until close to 8 o'clock anyway.
Well, you're worried about Metro North. You were in a couple scenarios. What was the line you gave me? This is a blank show on that Friday night.
You can say it. I think I was being kind.
You were upset that 3 hours and 45 minutes? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I walked out of the building at 5:45, and it was 4 hours. I got home at 9:46.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough.
Yeah. No, and it wasn't even just the whole train part was only about 3 hours of it. There was another hour to get home, once I got off the train.
Are you ready for baseball? Is this weather just taking all the edge off?
Puts a little bit of a damper on it.
Oh, it sure does. It's hard. I mean, and I tell you, you're not going to crack 50 degrees here until basically July 4th. I mean, my gosh.
No, it's really, really demoralizing.
It is tough. It wears you out. There's no question. I hear Steve Torrey. He's in Wendy's. We're all set?
You going to come?
You got a little table in the corner?
Well, it looks like everybody's dropping like flies. Maybe just me and you at Wendy's.
Oh, Babchek did not?
No, Babchek's around. I don't know what he's doing.
Colin, he's still around.
Colin's out.
Oh, Colin's out now. Oh, he left.
Eddie reluctantly is staying, I think.
Oh, Eddie has decided to stay.
All right, good. So Eddie and I have a couple of cocktails.
So it's the four of us then. It's Eddie, Babchek, you and me. Well, Dave Horvath's still in the town.
I found a nice place by the hotel, too.
Oh, you found a nice place.
Yeah.
So you guys have a good time.
All right, well, good.
Very good.
We'll miss you. I know what you're doing. Room service. You don't watch a little NIT action, right?
I did watch Mississippi State last night. They played well against Louisville.
They're going to be good next year. They got the whole team coming back.
I know. They are going to be good.
Ben Howland will get them to be a winner.
Yeah,
eventually.
I agree with that. And they got a big recruit coming in. I watched the game.
The SEC's...
it's picked up some.
You got Green at Georgia.
Oh, you're in the town.
You got Calipari, obviously still at Kentucky. A&M looks good in the tournament.
You know what I watched last night? The 30 for 30. Now, I missed the first half of it, so I had to catch it late. Well, there was the Boston College point scandal thing.
Yeah,
Did you see it?
I had seen that before. Yes.
Yeah, it was good. I watched it. I didn't pick it up right on time, so that's a tough story. It was 40 years ago.
Yeah,
that's Ernie Cobb.
Well, it wasn't that long ago. But.
Well, 1979. Oh, 38 years ago, Steve. I'm sorry, you make a liar out of me.
Well, that's what you would do.
Ernie Cobb and Jim Sweeney and Michael.
Michael Adams.
No, not him. Who was the guy? Hill. Who Ray Liotta played in Goodfellas. Michael Hill. Is that what his name?
Oh, I know what you're saying.
Henry Hill.
Henry Hill.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Very good.
Yeah, that was a good one. They do a great job with
They
us.
do. Very good. I hear Steve Torrey. Got Sports Bite. Is that Mad Dog on?